It's our pleasure to welcome the Cardinals general manager, Michael Girsch. Now, I know you can't gloat after making a couple of deals because it's just one weekend, but boy, your acquisitions, especially from the starting pitching perspective, have worked out pretty well. You're feeling good, aren't you?
It was a fun week of baseball, that's for sure.
Yeah. Tell me what you thought. First, Quintana, what'd you see on the mound?
I think we saw what we expected. He's a guy who knows what he's doing out there, commands his pitches well, changes speeds, keeps guys off balance, and pitched 6 good innings for us.
How about Montgomery? What'd you see there?
I think Jordan was in a tough spot. I mean, he was pitching against the only team he'd ever played for. All of his buddies who he had just been traded from 5 or 6 days before, in some of the hottest, muggiest weather he's probably ever pitched in. I think the fact that he gutted out 5 innings was great. He scuffled a little bit in that first inning, got a double play to get out of the first inning, and then pitched really well for the next 4 before the heat and the dehydration and whatever else kind of cramped him up a little bit. But it was a great gritty performance.
So can you give us a little inside baseball or take us into the war room? Because that trade with Harrison Bader was made rather late. Give us an idea of what was going on and how close you were to the deadline, and take us inside.
I mean, I think that trade was completed late, but the process around that trade had been going on a little while. As you can imagine, it's a complicated situation when you have injured players involved and 2 teams who are trying to compete. It's not the normal trade conversations that you might have. But at the end of the day, we both felt like these were trades that made us better for this year and next. And we didn't officially cross the finish line until pretty late in the process, but it wasn't something that was like rushed at the end or anything like that.
How big a impact with Dylan Carlson making all those great plays in center have on your ability to make this trade?
You know, I think the biggest impact is just that Dylan was playing center field for us. I think whether he made a few diving catches or not didn't move the needle a ton, but we had seen our outfield with Dylan in center field for several weeks and felt pretty comfortable with it. I think it also, you know, part of the calculus for both sides was dealing with Bader's injury, and I think a healthy Bader might have made you know, obviously changes how both sides look at him, and it might have changed how the whole, you know, if a trade even made sense. But I don't think any individual diving catch by Dylan, like, you know, changed our opinion of whether we thought he could be a center fielder.
I'm wondering if the diving catches by Lars Nootbaar has changed your opinion, or did you always believe, yeah, he could be a starting right fielder if he got the chance?
Well, I think Lars has done a great job sort of changing his swing and changing his approach and really improving at the plate since we drafted him a couple years ago. He really took advantage of that 2020 COVID year when there was no minor league baseball to play, but he worked hard on his game, worked hard on his offense, and came back as a different guy. And I think, you know, we're seeing that when you give him a chance, he's got a strong arm, he can run, he can field, he's got some juice in his bat, and he takes good at bat. So it's exciting to watch Lars play, and he's just one of those guys who's got that infectious energy when he makes a play, or when somebody else makes a play. He's the first guy, up off the bench and cheering everybody on. So he's been really fun to watch the last couple of weeks.
And the last week or so, it's been really fun to watch Paul DeJong. I'm wondering, Michael, I know you guys don't say it publicly, but I wonder if the thought ever crept into your head when he's had 2 rough years as a major league hitter. He goes down to Memphis, and he's not hitting at all those first couple of weeks. Did the thought ever pop into your head, you know what, maybe this is kind of like an Alan Craig situation where you just drop off the face of the earth? Or did you think, oh, he'll figure it out, he'll be back strong?
I mean, I think we all tried to be optimistic and positive about what would come for Paul. I think we knew he was going to work hard. We knew he was healthy, unlike, you know, like your Alan Craig example, where an injury had really sapped him of some of his abilities. But at the same time, like you never know when things go bad, sometimes they stay bad. So it was something that Paul had to work through, and he did a great job. He scuffled for like a week or 10 days down at AAA, and then he kind of figured stuff out, and he really hit well. And it was somewhat obscured by the fact that he had such a tough, first 20 at bats or whatever. But he played very well in Memphis for the last, 6 weeks or so before we called him up, and he earned himself another shot, and he's hit the ground running, which has been great.
Yeah, it's kind of amazing when you think about it, because when he did get off to that rough start in Memphis, which, with the bad 2 years, I think many people thought in town, well, we're probably never going to see him again. And now you're watching him, you think, hey, this guy could be our shortstop for the next 3 or 4 years. It's amazing what a 6-week time span has done.
No, for sure. And I think it speaks to like I think Paul's talked about, like having confidence and being comfortable and enjoying the game again. Like he's a different guy. He's back to being the guy that was our everyday shortstop for several years and performed at, all-star caliber level. And he's hopefully he can take these, he's only been up for eight or 10 games. Hopefully he can, take the start and run with it and keep playing well.
All right. I don't know how much you can tell us, but I think our audience would be fascinated if you can give us a little insight here. So the entire brass was in D.C. talking with Mr. Rizzo on the Soto deal. When they brought up the name Carlson or Walker, did you say, don't bring that name into it? We're not even discussing that? Or what can you tell us about how close you were? I know you guys weren't in the final two, as John mentioned, in a scrum, but give us an idea just how serious the talks were.
Well, I'm not going to go into too much detail, but I will say, we try to be reasonable about valuing all of our players on our roster and having an idea of how we value them in a trade situation. And so there is no, you can't ever have someone who you deem, untradeable or untouchable. It'd be silly, because if someone offered you something that was just ridiculous coming back, then you would obviously trade almost anybody, right? So I think the idea that there was like an individual player or players or that were, the only thing between us and getting a Soto deal done is just not realistic and not the way we actually approach the problem. It's the combination of players that are required and how they compare to how we value the player that's coming back to us. And so, we did explore it. Ultimately, we didn't go that direction, as Mo has talked about, and we're very happy with the guys we did get.
But John did mention there was a time before the deadline that you guys actually told Dylan Carlson he wasn't going to be traded, correct?
Yeah, Mo had a conversation with Dylan while we were in D.C. to let him know that was not a direction that we were headed.
All right, I got to ask you about Jordan Walker. He's 20 years old with an .885 OPS and 16 stolen bases. Now, we hope Nolan Arenado's here for the next 5 years. So if he is, what other positions could Jordan Walker play?
So this past week, Jordan has started playing outfield. So over the remainder of the season, he'll probably spend a little time in all three outfield spots. He is a very large human being. He's about 6'5" or 6'6" or something like that, but he can run. And so we'll try him in center, left, and right. We know he can play third base and can always go back there if that makes sense. And at some point he might get some reps at first base. But for now, we're going to explore the outfield with him and sort of see how that plays out.
And will he remain in Springfield? Will he have a cup of coffee in Memphis? Will he be here in September? What do you think?
That's something that we haven't really talked about too much. Ultimately, the minor league promotions and stuff are that's Gary LaRocque and the minor league staff's decisions. I think as a 20-year-old, there's no rush. At the same time, he's done well at Springfield. We are throwing a new position at him, so certainly in the short term, we'll let him sort of play some defense and see how that goes before we make any decisions on sort of how his season will end.
His teammate and likely his best friend is Mason Nguyen. Again, just an amazing story, an amazing prospect for the Cardinals. He is now hitting as a shortstop an .854 OPS, hitting .300. He has 30 stolen bases, and I believe he's just 20 years old too. What are you seeing with Nguyen when you watch him? He is 20 years old. Yep.
Yeah, he and Jordan came from the same draft, along with Tink Hence. That Randy Flores and the amateur scouting department did an incredible job. That was the 2020 COVID-shortened draft when having information on high schoolers was more challenging than ever, and they did a great job getting all three of those guys. Mason is one of the the quickest twitch athletes that you'll see on a baseball field. He's touched over 100 miles an hour, making throws from shortstop. He can run. He's a little guy, but he's getting stronger and bigger and hit the ball harder, and makes all the plays at shortstop. He's, again, a very exciting prospect. He and Jordan started together at the off-site in 2020 down in Springfield when we didn't have the minor league. They played together last year and again this year, and the two of them are an exciting pair of prospects as they move through the system at a very quick pace for very young guys.
You brought up Hentz. I got to believe of all the pitchers that are being paid to pitch in the United States, his strikeouts to innings ratio may be the best. He's got, I think, 59 Ks in 35 innings. What about his stuff?
Yeah, he's been amazing this year. He's again, I think unlike those, I don't think he's turned 20 yet. I think he's still 19. A wiry young man who's been working on getting stronger, just kind of preparing his body for the rigors of professional pitching as opposed to, once a week in high school. And so he's not thrown a ton of innings for us yet, but he has been incredibly effective in the innings he has thrown, and we're slowly stretching him out from first 2 innings, 1 or 2 innings in appearance. He's stretched out to 3 or 4 innings now, and just continues to improve and to sort of get comfortable with what it means to be a professional pitcher and to make appearances and to recover and get into a routine and continue to refine his pitches. And I think we probably won't move him very quickly this year because we're more focused on the long term and the preparation. But when he's allowed to perform with less controls on him, I suspect he'll move quickly through our system and be an exciting prospect to follow. And
you obviously project that kind of talent as a starter, correct?
Yeah. We're that's the whole point of the slow build up that we're doing with him, is to build him up physically and his arm to be able to handle the rigors of being a starting pitcher, for sure.
Michael Girsch with us, Hollywood Casino Press Box, all new 590 The Fan. Frank Cusumano here till 12. What do you do with, let's say, a guy like Ryan Helsley, who knows, and his agent has told him, and he's not a dumb guy, that you make a lot more money as a starting pitcher. You have a much higher percentage of getting a long-term contract as a starting pitcher. Let's just say he comes to you this offseason and basically says, I want to be a starter. Do you say, well, no, wait a minute, you're much better off for this club as a closer, that's where you're going to be? Or do you say, okay, we'll give it a shot?
I don't really know how to answer a hypothetical about Ryan Helsley
right.
and a demand that might or might not happen. But I mean, obviously, there's a lot of money to be made being the best reliever in baseball. Like the way Ryan's pitching right now, he's on a great trajectory, both in terms of team performance, his personal performance, his future contracts. Like I don't think that's much of an issue. I think the important thing is keeping Ryan healthy and keeping performing well. And whatever role that's in, whether it's Ryan or anyone else, that's the path to success, for an individual and for a team. And so we've got him in a spot where he's been performing about as well as you can, and he's staying healthy and feeling good. And that's the goal, to keep that going forward.
I got to ask you about Moises Gomez, who's got these outrageous stats. It's 29 home runs, it's 1,000 OPS. He's a 23-year-old outfielder. What about his status in the organization as we speak?
So Moises is an interesting story because he was a minor league free agent. He had been with the Rays for 7 years in their minor leagues, and we signed him as a minor league free agent this offseason. He has always been a big power, big strikeout guy who had scuffles in his ability to make enough contact to let that power play. This year, he's still striking out more than you'd like, but he is doing so much damage when he puts the bat on the ball that is more than made up for the high strikeout rate. He kind of dominated the Texas League at Springfield in Double-A and moved up to Memphis, maybe a month ago. And he's more than holding his own at Memphis. So it's sort of nice to pick up a surprise prospect every now and then. And despite the fact that he's been a minor league free agent, he's still only, I think, 24 years old. And so he's age appropriate at AAA for a prospect who have moved up to that level. And it's exciting to see if we can keep working with him on his pitch selection and his swing and just keep allowing that power to play.
Hey, can you explain the Nolan Arenado situation? He has the ability to opt out at the end of the season, which I don't think he's going to do. But what happens? Do you go to him, or does he come to you and he just walks in the office and says, I'm in? Or how does that work, Michael?
Technically, there's paperwork that has to be filed. But practically speaking, a conversation is all that really anyone needs in order to feel good that we're all on the same page. So, yeah, he has to, I guess formally he has to opt out. So maybe there's no paperwork if he doesn't want to opt out, and there's only paperwork if he does want to opt out, I guess. But ultimately a conversation will be had at some point with either Nolan directly or with his agent that, where we nail that down. And at some point, it'll become, once we do it privately, it'll become public, and then we'll move on without having to worry about it.
All right. How many total years for you in the organization in one role or another?
My first season was 2006. So This is my 17th season.
And in your 17 seasons, if you factor in the minor league talent and the major league talent, is this the most talent you've ever seen?
It's hard to say. I think we're in a really good spot. Whether it's the most or not is hard to say. I think I've been really blessed. I got a job in baseball in 2006. I walked into a World Series winning team my first year. I've had one losing season since I've been here. Tons of playoff runs, multiple World Series runs. I mean, I've been very lucky to be part of an organization that the question of what is the most talented it's ever been is actually a hard one to figure out, because we've been a very talented organization for the whole time I've been here. But where we are right now with the young players we have coming up and the success we're having at the big leagues, I think we're in a really good spot.
Awesome stuff. We appreciate your time, sir. Keep up the good work. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. Have a good one.
All right. Michael Girsch joining us, general manager of the Cardinals.